Meiktila, for any Burmese language speakers tuning in today, we wanted to let you know that our Better Burma mission has launched 3 Burmese language podcasts: Myanmar Revolutionary Tales, Dark Era of Burma, and Myanmar Peace, Women, and Security. These programs can be found on our website as well as on any of your preferred podcast platforms. We invite you to take a listen. But for now, let's get on with this episode. All right, for this episode of Insight Myanmar podcast, I'm really pleased to welcome Ma Naing to discuss her career in arts and photojournalism and feminism. So thanks so much for joining us, taking the time to talk about yourself.
Thank you so much. Very glad to talk here in this channel too. This is Ma Naing. I hope one day I can introduce you guys with my real name. Now I'm using my pseudonym Ma Naing. That means the king cannot beat you. It also reflects my revolutionary artistic journey in this period of time. So I just pick up this name. Yeah.
I see that. That's interesting. And that's also, just to give some background for listeners, this is something not uncommon in Myanmar history, that in times of revolution and wanting to change society, that individuals that are on the forefront of that change are also changing their name to reflect the current times. And so this is what we're also seeing now.
Yeah. As it reminds me of my olden day, during the revolution, saffron revolution. Even when we use the Gmail, we use the different name, something that cannot relate to our identity. But now we'll get back to it. But yeah.
Right. Okay. So for now, you're Ma Naing, and you've explained why you've taken that name. So, and as you've said, hopefully one day your real name may be known. Now, for safety and security reasons, this is not possible. There's a lot to talk about in terms of what you've covered in your personal and professional career. But as we do with all of our podcasts, take us back to the beginning. Talk a bit about growing up and your family life and early influences and what started to lead you to your later involvements.
I was not a photographer. I started my career as a teacher's trainer when I picked up English major in my university, and then I tried to be a teacher's trainer because I hate my classroom experience as a student when I was young. So I was I wanted to be a better teacher. And so with that kind of hatred, the passion to change the classroom environment. So I pick up teacher's training.
Actually, that's where we met originally, because I was a teacher trainer back in Yangon at the American Center, and you came to a couple of those trainings, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And at that time, American Center is and BC, and this is the only alternative education resources for us. And so all of us it's kind of like an educational hub for us, and also exposure to democracy and other forms of expression like music and literature. Things.
Great. Yeah. So you're learning to be a teacher trainer. We met at the American Center during some of the courses that I was running, and you learned some things there, as well as the wider array of things the American Center offered. And then you were just getting onto a story about how you went to Hong Kong as a teacher trainer. So go ahead with that.
Yeah. And then I got a scholarship in Hong Kong as for my master degree, but I pick up I'm interested in classroom management, and I'm interested in learning behavioral behavior in the classroom setting. But like I that time because I'm from Myanmar, so the scholarship committee, they just the people from Myanmar, they should learn about development study, they should learn about education and management. They just so it's
Hmm.
not fit with my interest. So I
Hmm.
got to learn about education and management in Hong Kong U. Which is now fit with my the actual interest, and then I'm not happy in my class, and I hate my matchbox class like bedroom in Hong Kong. So I end up like sitting in the park. That time, like if you remember in Myanmar, like if a girl sitting in the park, it's kind of like a taboo for us. It's like a very like rare experience for me. So I'm very fascinated about sitting in the park. And then I was and also as a gesture of Myanmar culture, like everybody, I thought my neighbor, I just share my glance of I just share my smile, and then I'm overtly like too friendly for my neighbors, and so they misinterpret my behavior like I'm kind of waiting for like a sex work as a second job, like a part-time job or something like that, and they approach me with a little piece of paper. So I didn't know that time like how to react that. I didn't know that
Hmm.
it had sexual harassment because this is my first time overseas country. I never heard of sexual harassment and things like that in my life, and so I didn't know how to react it. And then I bring my camera every day in the park to pretend I'm a tourist, and then I found photography there. This is how I started as a photographer. And in Hong Kong U, I hang out more with the journalists than with the people in my classroom. So this is the time like I started to interested in photography. And but I was just a serious hobbyist. Yeah. But one Meiktila the Meiktila riot happened in 2013. Meiktila is like where I used to teach, where I used to give the teachers training. So I got to know the city and got to know the people. So when that religious like riot happened between in that incident, 48 Muslim people were killed in the riot in that incident. So it I couldn't believe it because I live in that city. I I had experience working there. So I was like I wanted to do something like the positive connectivity between two community, Buddhist community and Muslim community. But I didn't know like how to tell the story with my photo. So I applied in a workshop, like international reportage workshop, and I got selected. And then I spent in Meiktila for 3 months. Yeah, I remember like some incident like when I take picture of the damages in the mosque, a group of people follow me with a laundry stick and questioned me and asked me to
Hmm.
delete my memory card. And I like a lot of struggle, like a special police or some those kind of hassle met, but that those things really pushed me and really wanted me to be a photographer. That's those struggle. So then after
Hmm.
that,
So Meiktila was the first example, the first time in your life that you were actually
yeah,
doing something that was at this time it was a hobby, but it would lead to the photojournalism. But this was the first kind of photography in Myanmar you were really doing to document something. Is that right?
that's correct. Yeah.
Mm. So that must have been a really incredible experience to not have any professional background, not have any network, not have any technical skills really, just more as a hobby. And suddenly in this place where you're teaching and training, there's this riot, which is I mean this is one of the more horrifying and infamous riots of the last 10 years in Myanmar, easily, of the Buddhist Muslim riots that happen. This happens right in your backyard. And just with your camera, you go and start taking pictures and then end up with being harassed as you do that.
Yep, yep, that's correct. But those like struggle, like those challenges, makes me want to do about like photography. This is kind of like makes my blood boil. So I
Why is
really
that?
feel like when when become a teacher, I'm happy like teaching, but I didn't get like this arch. I didn't get like this
Mm,
kind of like urgency, or I didn't get like this kind of
mhm.
in my life, and so that time is like the more they stop me and the more I want to tell the story. But to be honest,
Mm,
because I didn't know the tools of the storytelling with the images, because I'm a
hmm.
journalist, so I realized I need to learn about storytelling, and then
Right.
yeah, that's why I started to apply. Like I started to apply for opportunity to learn about reportage. Yeah.
Hmm. Right. So then you went and you kind of switched careers from education to photojournalism and storytelling. So then I assume you went to school or had some kind of training in that field.
Yeah. Then I apply international reportage workshop by Barcella, South Asia Institute from Bangladesh, and Norwegian University of Oslo. They doing like a international workshop. I'm one of the I am the only hobbyist, that um, but that didn't stop me. And after that workshop, I want to make Tila again. I spent 3 months. Working on that, like positive connectivity, like because I believe that in the media landscape we always talk about negative impact,
Mm,
negative story, but I truly believe that there is always like a beautiful story behind even in the war. So I would like to highlight on that, so that the more we know about the positivity and we can connect to community, because I believe that those community always have been like Buddhist and Muslim community in Meiktila always have been like a good relationship. Although they have
hmm.
scars, but like long history, they live together like
Mm.
interreligious family. It's just like it's beautiful bond is like still happening. I witness it, I experience it. So with that drive, yeah. So Meiktila is like my life changing.
I just want to pause there for a minute because you describe how you want to find the good side of certain stories and not a fabricated good side, but really authentically some part of the story or nuance that's not being told. So here you have these terrible anti-Muslim riots that take place in Meiktila that make international news, and yet, as someone who has spent time and lived in Meiktila, you're telling us now that there is this history of positive and wholesome Muslim Buddhist relations in that community that you want to tell. So, can you share a bit about what you mean by that from your experience of living in Meiktila? What kinds of positive interactions between Muslim and Buddhist communities did you witness that wasn't being reported at the time of the riots?
Yeah. So I lived and worked there for 6 months. So I I live with the local family, not in a. My landlord is a Muslim, and also their relatives are Buddhist, and even their one of her cousin is a monk. So it's kind of like this kind of thing you cannot easily see in Yangon. So
Yeah,
it's like it's very beautiful, like in eat and they share food, and also in Sunjoy, like donation ceremony, and the Muslim relative or neighbors also attended. And it's like it's very interreligious interreligious community, and also there are also some incidents. Some of the Muslim were saved by the Buddhist community, but
right.
for me, like if we highlight more about positive story, and people will have more courage to save the Muslim or the people who needs help. And so I would
Sure.
like to highlight those like positive part. That is what is lacking in the media landscape.
Mm. Right. Great. Thanks for that. And you were going on with your story of what happened after Meiktila as you started to
Yeah.
realize you wanted to learn this field more.
Yeah, and after Meiktila, I spent like 3 months in to do that storytelling based on Meiktila. Then after that, I decided, oh, this is where I want to be, because we never know what we wanted to be when we were young in our generation. So
Hmm.
I really realized that, oh, this is where I wanted to be, and I quit my job, and then I apply. I got a job in Myanmar Times as a photojournalist, as a staff photographer that time. So like it's how shall I say? It's kind of like different workspace and different nature of work, but it's like it's really excited me. Yeah, in the newsroom, to work with the newsroom. Yeah.
What excited you about that?
Mostly like mostly I'm very bad with words, and so I have a lot of story. I realized that I wanted to tell this story mostly like my story come from like love and hatred. Sometimes like some, if I love something, like I really wanted to share, and also if I'm really disgusted about the one thing, so I really wanted to tell. So in working in the newsrooms, people can be say like, oh, you cannot be subjective in the newsroom, but it's like always like we pick up the story what we want we like to tell. And also working in Myanmar Times also had me a chance to pitch the story I like to do, and also of course I also have to cover the story I am assigned, but I have a chance to pitch the story. For example, like copper mine protest, I had a chance to meet with the activists from copper mine, mostly are led by the women. And also I had a chance to go to Rohingya camp in Sittwe, and telling about like woman side of story, which mostly like male photographer go and cover. Sometimes sometimes a gap of like seeing from the woman perspective, woman point of view. So it's like working with Myanmar Times. It's really like it's kind of and I can improve my photography at the same time. I can. It's kind of like a the salary like from jumping from teacher trainer to photojournalist is like way huge gap, but I'm happy. I feel like I'm living for.
Mhm.
I'm happy. Yeah, I'm having in my job, so it's different.
Mm. Right. And you also reference elsewhere the problems that you had in being female in this profession, both in terms of your family who had maybe hopes or expectations you might look for marriage rather than a career, as well as in the professional field itself in terms of sexism and gender discrimination. So, can you talk a bit about the experience of being a woman in this profession and during these years?
Um, as a typical like Burmese family, coming from a typical Burmese family, being a teacher's trainer is like every parent's like dream of. Like it's like it's a
Hmm.
occupation for designed for women. So like my family, my mom is like really happy when I was a teacher's trainer, but when I
Mm,
changed to photographer, they even didn't realize she didn't really accept me photography as an occupation. So it was like I was like
mhm,
always like refer I'm doing my hobby. It's not hobby, it's my
mm,
occupation.
mm,
um
uh-huh.
and so that like early 1 or 2 years I trying to prove that I am capable, but later I realized that I don't need to prove anybody. Like if I want to do something I like to do, I don't need to prove anyone, so I keep going.
Mhm,
And being a woman photographer is also like although I'm excited walking in the newsroom, but there are some circumstances, situation, like when we pitch the story, sometimes like I got like some reaction like, oh, this is too dangerous for you. But this kind of protest you were sent to the male photographer but not to women photographer because it is too dangerous for women.
mhm,
For example, like my pitch to the copper mine, they although I pitch with a writer, but the response was, oh, the writer is also male, the man. So mostly like newsroom is like a man to man, the assigning assignment together. But I really research together with the writer, so I have to go. Then I told them like, if you cannot like assign me, I will go with my own expense. Like I was like really
mhm,
determined.
mm,
Then but it's like I realized that the newsroom culture is also still like limited for the woman photographer. I think it's not just in Myanmar. In I think it's relatable to most of the country for the woman photographer. So I feel
mhm,
like okay, this is not where I want to be. I like to work on the story. I like to go like maybe in the conflict zone, and maybe in the in in the trafficking, like in the border area. Like I'm also interested to cover the trafficking story from Myanmar to China as a bribe that time. So it was like, okay, I like to work on those things, but I like my my experience with the newsroom is also limited me. Like so I decided to quit the job. In not even 1 year, it's like 11 months. I quit the job, and then I pursue to be a documentary long-term documentary photographer, because newsroom culture is a little bit too rush for me. For me, it's like mostly like anthropography, like how do you say, like long-term, like working with the community and gaining trust, and it's like more slow journalism, I could say that. So that's also a part of the reason I quit the job and mostly focus on the personal documentary, long-term documentary. When I say personal, because like some of the drive to cover the story is come from my personal love and hatred, as I told before. Yeah.
And you also referenced elsewhere in other interviews that you had some concern that the stories that you were being asked to cover, they either fit into what you called like a hot topic or what you called like a typical Burmese scene. So can you flesh out a little bit what you meant by those terms and your concerns with that?
Yeah. For example, um, like one of my story, one of my work, sorry not sorry, it's about the my process of the story is like my personal reflection, personal journey after my breakup. So but like in this industry, I call like a photography is an industry. It's sad, but it's just an industry. Although we try to call it like a community, but it's still like industry. So in this industry, it's like everything is by trend, everything by hot topic. So that time, like the curator and the editor wanted my work to turn out into the Burmese woman, giving Burmese woman gaze on the white man. So it's not about that, and then it's not about that, because it's like just because I'm the woman from Myanmar, they try to put into the context of like the trending topic that time. I need to be honest with myself for the artist statement, and especially to my artwork. So I, yeah, I mostly like not defense, like mostly fight for this kind of situation. Sometimes I got a chance to tell what I want to tell, but sometimes they're not interested in if I'm not in a trend. So it's okay. Yeah, at least I can be true to myself.
And by those terms, hot topic or Burmese scene, these being some of the primary things that people want you to cover, can you unpack those terms and tell us like what they meant in the context of a newsroom and why you were uncomfortable with them?
The hard topic is like, for example, like in the Rohingya, like when I went to the Rohingya camp in 2014, it's mostly I wanted to dig more on. I wanted to dig more on the woman issue in the camp, what's happening in the camp, but instead, like the editor, like the newsroom editor, they didn't, because I have like a portrait series of the woman and their interview, and but I wanted to tell like more about the the woman, the 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 oppressed life of women in the camp. But it's like this is not what they want to hear. This is more about, they want to hear more about the suffering of the Rohingya at that time. Yeah, of course, like Rohingya women suffering also is important, but I want to highlight more on the woman, the lived experience of Rohingya women in the camp, but not to glorify the itself is like a should like not to highlight only the like generalized suffering of the Rohingya issue, but it's like more focused on the woman that time. But it's like it's not interested. It's not the interesting topic for especially for my editor at that time. Um, Yeah, and then for example, like a Meiktila issue, like I also wanted to go back to do like a positive story, like this story. I want to do like an ongoing one, so I also pitch in the newsroom, but like not interested in, because Meiktila things like Meiktila incident happened 2013, so it's like no follow up, like no follow up,
Yeah, right.
no follow up research based story in the news culture. That's what I feel. So and also like the positive story is not very juicy.
Hmm.
So I feel like so this is like it's kind of frustrating phase of my career, the early phase of my career. Yeah. So I think
Yeah,
that I have to be like freelance, like, or more working on my personal documentary, and it's suited with
yeah.
me more than working for outlet, like I'm working for the agency.
Yeah, I'm really alarmed by consistently, how when when stories in Myanmar are covered in journalism, it often seems just this extraordinary lack of nuance. There's really just one angle they have for it, and then it creates this dichotomy of either that the angle that is created, either that is what the truth is, or that's absolutely not the truth, and it's the opposite of that. And there's no real wiggle room or human element or humanity that's expressed within these complicated factors going on. Just an example that comes to my mind is looking at Siddiqui Sayeda and the role that he's played in some of the anti-Islam things he said, and the concerns about how he's supported or said complimentary things about the anti-Islam violence, and that's a very important story to cover. It's something that people should know, and that his the things that he's said and done, they're very legitimate for wanting to be concerned about and wanting to report on it.
Mhm.
But often in the way it's reported, I see it as this black and white thing that, oh, he said this, so he obviously believes this, and this is what his mission is, and either everyone is completely for or against what that angle is. And I'm telling that story because in the middle of all this, when Siddiqui Sayed himself was getting a lot of this criticism and flack, for rightly so, for some of these speeches that he gave, I happened to visit the Siddiqui Academy in Sagaing, and I met the rector, who's a good friend of mine there, Ukumara. And I was just talking to him in his office. And as I was talking, I looked at his desk and I saw that he had a copy of the Quran in translated in Burmese.
Mhm.
And of course, that completely piqued my interest. I was like, why are you looking at that? And my mind started to reel towards different suspicious or conspiracy theories.
Mhm.
And he just said delightfully, like, and then he went to a box and he opened up a box and he showed me a box of like hundreds of these Qurans that were translated. And he said, "Oh, we have we at this academy, we don't just want to learn about Buddhism, we want to learn about other religions. And so this is our chance to learn about what's in the Quran." And I just kind of poked a little bit, like, "Oh, well, do you look at it, are you trying to criticize it, or are you looking at it like compared to Buddhism?" And he just said, "No, no, no. We just read it. We just want to know what's in it. We just want to know what this religion is made of, so we better understand it, so we can converse and have inter-religious dialogue and such." And I just sat there, just kind of stunned that there's this whole narrative framing Siddiqui Sayeda and the entire Siddiqui mission as leading this anti-Islam charge. And this is not in any way to comment upon or the statements that Siddiqui Sayeda said in regards to the anti-Islam violence were really concerning and really bad. It's not in any way to justify that. It's just talking about this nuanced environment where, on one hand, you have the head of this academy, the Sayeda, saying these things that are very concerning and that might be inciting violence and that deserve that attention. But then the nuance of the story is that within the academy, where hundreds of Buddhist monks are studying, they're going to classes where they're learning the Quran and they're learning it to be able to understand Islam. And what does that mean? I don't know exactly. It's a lot to untangle. But to me, the problem is when you have these stories and you're just having that one angle where either Siddiqui Sayeda is anti-Islam or he's not anti-Islam, or he is anti-Islam, but it's a good thing he is because he needs to protect Buddhism. These are just very simplistic ways of storytelling, and you lose that nuance of learning just that one fact that within this academy, all the monks are reading the Quran, and they're reading it to have an idea of what Islam is about so that they can have interreligious dialogue. So I think that's just one example I found, I think, of many things that are out there. I think Meiktila also fits into that with you, where there are these incredibly nuanced, complex elements of how society and events are coming together. And often when it comes to Myanmar, I find we just get the one story at the end, which just completely overwhelms and drowns out all of those smaller actors and engagements in favor of just the one storyline.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I feel like this trend and this trend make like give us like a repeated story all the time. Like it's some like yes, of course, those stories are important. We need to hear, but also there are other angle or other angle stories. So sometimes like the more you repeat, the more you hear repeatedly. Sometimes
Yeah.
kind of fade away. Sometimes like it's too much. Sometimes and I think we also need to have like a balance of other like human story or other side of the story. I think it's not just for Myanmar. I think it's also similar like Ukraine and other
Mhm.
other news that
Yeah,
you.
and I also think that takes curiosity because when this incident happened, in a way, I was kind of upset that I just happened to be in Sidigu Academy seeing this Quran on the desk and then asking about it. Why did no reporter ever do that? Why was there no one who was telling the story who ever thought to come go to the most famous academy by Sidigu Sayeda and learn what was being taught there and report on it, whether it was, anti-Islam or a more wider view or interreligious or talk about the complexity. And I know a bit about Sidigu Academy and the Sidigu mission. It's very complex. There are a lot of very senior Sidigu monks who do not agree with Sidigu Sayeda. There are left-leaning Sidigu monks. There are right-leaning Sidigu monks. They're pro-democracy. They're pro-military. And there is no reporting on this. I don't see anyone who's interested or curious in trying to find out, well, what is the makeup of this? Instead, we just get one story, one basic kind of boring caricature of Sidigu Sayeda as this with no real examination or underlying investigation under that just one storyline.
Yeah, this like is interesting to hear like the Quran study like it's like what investigating and like it should be like a like is what researching about this in the news landscape. Yeah.
Mm, right. And getting back to your story, one of the things you've also said and elsewhere, but this is also kind of inferred by what you've said in this interview, is that you feel that you're not so much a photojournalist now, maybe you started out that way, but you feel that you're a storyteller, not a photojournalist. And you've also described yourself as an artist and not an activist. So can you pick apart those terms and why you've expressed yourself that way?
Because as I told you, like I responded I cover the story based on my personal like response. So some story can be my personal response. Some story can be like collaborating with the people based on the topic I chose. So if I pick up like a photojournalistic, it's like I cannot pinpoint my projection, my feeling in it or my emotion in it. Like for example, like Meiktila story is like all about love, and so it's like the story also reflected my love in the community. So in the photojournalism, it's a little bit difficult to portray this way, and not just Meiktila story. For example, like my other story with a trafficking victim from Inwar case, Sankey Kai. So it's more like I also have like a traumatized childhood. So I can also reflected my childhood together with her. It's kind of like a storyteller and the collaborator, like building the story together, telling the story together, so reflecting our emotion. And so it's also that's why I don't want to call myself a journalist. And also like journalist also like journalism has also its way of telling a story, like more reportage way. The reportage way, I feel like sometimes like telling the story in reportage way is like so much limitation. Some stories are very gentle and some stories are very how should I say very complex to tell the story. And then reportage language is not enough for me. Maybe it's not, I couldn't speak for other photographer and for journalists, not enough for me. So I was like, okay, it's too much limitation. So I call myself artist, not a photojournalist. Yeah.
Mhm. Mm. Right, and whatever you're calling yourself and whatever your motivation is, there is an art and an act to taking a good picture and what is defined as a good picture and how you frame it and when you click the camera and what you're trying to capture. So from a technical standpoint, can you describe, as well as you can, what goes into getting and framing a good picture?
Mostly, again, like mostly that which strike with my emotion. Mostly that if it is strike my emotion, and when I capture the moment and to respond my emotion, I think this is like I really chose that photo. And also like, so it's not, I couldn't decide like once I couldn't decide which photo I will choose most of the time, because I have to check all the photograph which
Mhm.
photos tell the story really effectively, and which photos tell my emotion, like portray my emotion, plus also like the issues more effectively. And also sometimes like I have to be really careful when I choose a photograph, like, oh, maybe this is like problematic for the people I'm shooting, because I we also have like a ethic, although maybe like some photograph can be like amazing, like catching the moment, but it's like if that photo can trouble my collaborator, I have to get rid of it. So it's like um, it's difficult to tell like which is like uh, the striking photo plus the photo
Mhm.
we choose. I choose in the story. Yeah.
You've described elsewhere also about how you in how you capture photos that you consider yourself like a cat, and this relates to the moods and the interactions you have with what you're capturing. Can you describe that a bit more?
Yeah. So before I some of the stories are like comes like very intuitively, but some like I call myself like a cat photographer, because I know what I which area I want to cover, and I know what kind of language, like even from the start. Sometimes I know like, oh, I will shoot with a warm tone, I will shoot with a cold tone, because this is all about anger. For example, if I give the example, like my work with National Geographic on Spring Revolution. So know that it's beginning of the revolution, right? And so there are lots of photograph like covering, like a photograph like showing the emotion of the people, and very like enthusiasm of the people who are taking part in the revolution. Like people are really enthusiastic about it, and the photo also shows. But for me, it's like, oh, this is a kind of like a this is a kind this is a kind of a war, like we are starting, but we don't know the result. Maybe we win in a short time also, or maybe we will not win in the short time. Or so I don't I my mind is like, I have to protect the people I'm shooting, because like at the end, like if the hunter the fall the catch the people based on my photos, that's my responsibilities. So I know that since the start I need to protect them. And also like that incident of the being in the protest and being, because I myself is also a part of the community. I myself, not as an
Sure.
outsider, I'm
Yeah.
myself also
Mhm.
very enthusiastic about it. So everything is very
Mm.
overwhelmed. So I need, like, if I
Mhm.
come with the digital camera, I will be overwhelmed by every factor. So I feel since
Mhm.
the start, I know that I need to slow down, so that I know I need to slow down not to be too overwhelmed in this situation.
Mhm.
So I decided to
Mhm.
shoot with a film camera, because the film camera approach helps me like slow down and see what I need. Like, so
Mm. Interesting.
that I know, yeah, I will shoot with film, and I will protect them. So I decided to do like a double exposure, like protecting their identity. So one photo is the protesting, one photo is the protester. So I overlaid it, and also in protecting to protect our protagonist, the collaborator, as I shoot with the film, I need to send it to the lab. But if I send it to the lab, it will expose their identity. So I decided, okay, I will develop myself. I know that if we develop ourselves at home, there will be like lots of dust, and there are lots of imperfection of the chemical. So I was like, okay, maybe this is also tell like how complex of the like political landscape that time. So it was like, okay,
Hmm.
the imperfection, like all the distraction in the chemical reaction, in the result of the film developing, also
Uh-huh.
match with my storytelling. So I was like decided, okay, I will shoot with the film, I will develop myself. Yeah, so it's like
Right.
I know, like since the start, I know what I want to do. But like some projects are like very intuitively, but some project I really know, I really plan how I want to do. Yeah.
Mm, right. So you're actually jumping ahead and talking about your project called Faces of Change, and we can go there. We can go all over the map. There's some things in between in your journey before we get to the military coup. But because you touched on that, let's examine what this Faces of Change is. And in your own words, describing this project of double exposure, you wrote, quote, "Faces of Change will provide an intimate answer to that sprawling question, a subtle human-focused portrait gallery of ordinary individuals who are participating in the revolution and, as strangers acting in unison, radically changing their country's history. This gallery of ordinary people at an extraordinary juncture in their lives is aimed to bring a needed counterpoint perspective to the imagery of Myanmar Spring Revolution." And as I'm reading that now, actually, one of the things that stands out to me that I wasn't aware of when I first looked at it, just based on this interview, the one word that, or the two words that really stand out in that quote is needed counterpoint. You talk about bringing a needed counterpoint perspective to the imagery of Myanmar Spring Revolution. And in having this conversation with you up till now, you've talked about how any story that you're covering, you're always looking at this other angle, this nuance, this perhaps positive perspective, this human part of it that's being lost. And so this really stands out to me, that you're also bringing this to those early revolution days. And so my question for you is, what do you feel was being lost or missed or misunderstood in the early reporting of the resistance to the coup? And how did you want your work as storytelling, again, not as photojournalism, because you define yourself that way, but as a storyteller, where did you want to fit your work into a gap of information and perspective that you felt wasn't being properly addressed or understood?
Yeah, so in early phase of revolution, like a lot of coverage on the energetic scene of the protest and the tactics of the protest. So this is like what covering, but and also like having profile, even including profile in most of the news, is like mostly like prolific people. For example, like the woman leader, like activists are every like Al Jazeera also include that person, and BBC also included the person. We keep hearing the same answer, like the same quest. That is the same answer from like different media outlet. So for me, is like that time is like this revolution is not just this revolution starting from not from the politician. It's from the people, like the ordinary people come up and gather and start this revolution. It's a people revolution led by people. So I want to highlight the ordinary, like different color of like the people. Although the same goal, we have the same goal, but as you notice, like I also include the garment factory workers. I also include like elderly people who face like several revolution, and also Gen Z, not just focusing on the Gen Z at the time, because like other people experience is also important, and also like ethnic community, because like the involvement of the ethnic people in that revolution will not be the same with will not be the same with the garment factory workers or the Burmese who were involved in the revolution. So I would like to
Mhm.
listen to them. Like the challenging part of that piece is like everybody. when we like I just ask them like one question every profile, like first three profile, but everybody answer like, oh, I want like because it's like we are angry about the dictatorship, we want to kill, like we want to get down this like revolution. But it's like
Hmm.
after having three interview, become like repeating, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know what we don't know. I don't know what to do. So it's like, okay, I asked
Mm,
my mentor. Like he's like a writer, but it's also like my mentor. So he's like, why don't you start a conversation, like a slow conversation, like a natural conversation,
mm,
like you do in job.
mm,
So I invited like so when I make the portrait, I wanted to protect their identity. So I created a story in my apartment, and then I invited in my house. So it's like a safe space and also like more calm situation. So I
mm.
sat down, like starting from like some conversations start from childhood. Like it's no set question. Like we just go with the flow. So
Right.
it comes a human element. So it's every different profile have like a different experience that push them to that those experience drive them to take part in this revolution. So that's I think the rush nature of news. Sometimes we kind of miss this
Hmm.
kind of conversation or this kind of
Sure.
yeah
Yeah, it sounds like a podcast discussion you're describing. Sounds like you just sit down and just have a free-flowing, organic,
yeah
long-form discussion. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. And so staying a bit on just the recent coup and the resistance movement, uh, when there were those early nonviolent protests, I understand you were out in the street and you were taking pictures, and that was very exciting, but it also became somewhat dangerous. So can you go back those 2 years and just describe your experience in that period?
Mhm. Like every photographer or artist or documenter, we were really enthusiastic, and we were really excited in the protest, to cover the protest, and
Mhm.
also like everybody like in the I think starting from starting from February 27, 22, start starting the crackdown become like tougher. So we start to be really prepared, like, oh, to have like a gas mask and to have like the
Mhm.
boots and the helmet. But like those kind of like preparation is fit for the photographer from like maybe Hong Kong, but doesn't fit with Myanmar,
Mhm.
because we are facing with the Myanmar um, police and soldiers, so it's different
Mhm.
from the other context. So like in March, it's getting like harder and harder. Like a lot of photographer and a lot of like protester. I also face like a experience of like a three times hiding in a place. Like one incident is on March 27th. We are doing the artist-led protest on Bansudan Road, and so like soon after, like maybe just 2 minutes, police crackdown happened. Like as you see, like a Bansudan Road is like a long road, and so it's like it's difficult to hide, and so we just like
Mhm.
ran to the building, like a nine-story building. We happened to hide in a nine-story building, like so we knocked the door, nobody opened for us. Like the family opened for us is like Hindu family. There were like seven family members living there, and the protester and photographer and videographer all of us are eight, and so eight and seven is like 15 people in a apartment. It doesn't make sense if they come and check us.
Mhm.
um so but they opened the door for us, and my experience of in the past is like I as also like my experience as a photojournalist. That time I have to blend with the local, I have to blend it. That makes me like, I asked them like, oh, can you give me the red dot to put it on my forehead like a Hindu woman. And also I asked them to change the clothes, and I hide out like my camera in the kitchen and bathroom and in an unexpected area. And the really the police come, the police and the soldier come with a real gun, and they said, like, go family member that side, protester that side. And then I went with the family member side, and they were the youngest family member is like 8 years old twin. They communicate within their family, like, to pretend me as their mate, in Hindi. So it's like everybody knows what to say. And sadly, like, other protester and other like a protester and one video journalist were arrested, were taken to the interrogation center, except me. They were even like, in that incident, they were even the police and soldier, they were even try to check with the family census, a family list. And then I was like, okay, if they check with the family list, I'm doomed. But one family member, she's pregnant, and then she started to do like a vomit. She started to act like she's vomiting, and then she give me a signal. I know that I hold her hand, and we went to the kitchen. And this is the way we. I am not in the sight of the soldier, so this way I could escape from that arrest. So it's like if I reflected that incident, it's like the Hindu family, they were minority, like, who faced the oppression, and they saved the majority. Me, like the Burmese, like the majority, it's kind of like us, like it's such a experience for me. Um,
But
and yeah,
that's incredible, but also how traumatic it must have been that all of your colleagues that you were with, except for you, they all got arrested and taken to the interrogation center. That must have been just awful.
yeah, that's very devastating. Like, especially like they were taken to the interrogation section. So, like, as you know, like, it's very notorious, and we were really worried. And then one incident happened. Is like, as I shared that incident to the art community, and someone also like, said, they were arrested, who and who's arrested, but you, my name, I was like, escaped from that building by disguising as a maid, and with the help of the Hindu family. I was like, oh my god! Like, sometimes, like, I feel like people reacted. If we don't have anything to help the situation, we were really
Mhm,
devastated, and then we do like
mhm,
something, just posting on the Facebook. So sometimes that is causing harm more than help. So we
mhm.
really need to careful like this kind of situation, reflecting my experience. Yeah, yeah, that time,
Yeah.
like, so I really had like a difficult time to taken down all the Facebook share about the incident, not because of my identity or not because of my safety. I think because of the family, like the Hindu family on Bensudan Road is like, it's only like one of the houses they raided, and so it's like very obvious. So I'm really worried about the family who saved me. And yeah,
Mhm,
and also worried about the people in the interrogation section, because they were also like really helpful for me, and they didn't even look at me. Like, my friends, my she's an artist and also a videographer. She didn't even give a glance to me. Like, she saw me, but it's like we didn't even share a glance. Like, so everything, like, everyone in that on that day helped me to escape from that like from that arrest. This is,
mhm.
yeah.
And did that change the way that you were going out and covering the story?
So it's like I have to be, after that incident, I have to be, because I'm not trained as a frontline photographer. And I also think like, there are other photographer out there doing covering this protest. So I want to do something else, like more something people, like another story that I can tell more effectively. So I'm mostly working in indoor, like a studio, like and inviting people, like more collecting on that, like phases of change, like portrait profile. And also like, I I also collected the, how should I say, the poster of Mia Lai, who was like crushed and who was also like stepped down by the people. For me, it's like the street artifacts of the people, the revolutionary people. Like we can see like a damaged poster of Mia Lai also shows that how we hate that man, like how we hate
Hmm.
that creature. So I'm also collecting them. I'm also
Hmm.
collecting the physical objects. So one day, hopefully, if we have a chance, we can show them. Sadly, I couldn't taken out those pieces outside of Myanmar, so it's still in a safe place. Yeah.
So talk about your decision to ultimately leave Myanmar and what drove it and what it was like having to leave.
Apart from working as a photographer, my other main job is I'm also work for NGO that develops resources for local photographer and filmmaker. So it's like it's a local NGO, so it was registered under my name, and we work closely with the journalist, and also we also work some projects, sensitive projects like extractive industry and human right issue. And so it's like in not even we started like before Aung San Suu Kyi period, like before NLD period. And so since the same time we were running that organization, so that time like I've been like if something sensitive like exhibition happen or some report launch happen at our organization, the person who they started to question is me, because I'm the owner and that I'm the,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, by the registration they can come to me anytime. So I'm being like followed by the special police like for 2 months. One We launched a report launch on Jade Mine in 2014. I think 2014 or 15. I don't even remember. 2015. Yeah. So this kind of incident, but in the same time, we know how to play. But like in this like Mea Lai time is like I feel like the targets are random, and also
Yeah.
they're also acting like a mad dog at the corner. So it's I started to feel like insecure and not really safe because of the my link with the for my artwork is like I'm not the hardcore journalist, and also like more I telling story in a conceptual way. So I can play a little bit like I can be in Myanmar doing this kind of approach, telling more stories. But my link with my registration is makes me vulnerable at that period, and also I didn't have any support of my like legal support, or I didn't have any support from my the international partner. So I was like, okay, I have to find my way out by myself. So I got to know like Cornell artist at risk program. So they accepted me as an artist at risk in Cornell, and then I didn't even prepare. Like I couldn't prepare. At that time, my sister was in prison. She was arrested in April, the coup, like New Year. So um, my like I discussed with my mom, like I got this opportunity. Should I go? Like I cannot leave her while she wasn't. My sister wasn't in the prison because my mom is 71. She couldn't even know how to use online banking that time. So she was like, okay, go. At least one family member has to be outside and safe, and you can do a lot. Like if you are outside, and she she pushed me like she helped me decide I have to go. So
Right.
I left that I left Myanmar in a really like I didn't even have many preparation time, and
Hmm.
I couldn't also tell a lot of people like let's say I'm leaving tomorrow. This evening I'm meeting with my woman photographer group, and I couldn't tell I'm leaving. And but I
Yeah.
know that this is my last time, and I don't know. Like I also know that I will not know what time I will. One, I will meet them again. So it's like it's very hard. So when I left that like from the meeting, when I go back to home from that like gathering, I stopped. Like I couldn't. I need to absorb the moment. Like I stopped my taxi and I need to walk because this
Hmm.
will be my last moment. Like soaking up all the memory with Yangon and everything. Like not
Yeah.
just Yangon, like Yangon. Maybe like if I'm now in Yangon, now Yangon. Even if I have a chance to go back to Yangon now, it will be different because the people we love and
Yeah.
people are not there, and some we lost some
Uh-huh.
people. Like it's different. Like
Sure.
yeah.
Mhm. So now you've, as so many others have, you've been displaced, and in being displaced, there's also this dispossession, this loss of home, really, for an indefinite period, as you can't go back to familiar places and people and where your native land is, the soil where you're from. So as time stretches on, and we don't know how long this terrible crisis is going to go, can you describe how that dispossession is feeling to you?
Yeah, the first moment, like the decision, when I make the decision, I really thought like, oh, maybe like within 1 year I could come back. I was naive, like I
Yeah.
didn't expect that long. Like I thought like now it's like I still believe like we will win, but it's like to some extent, like as time to some extent of time frame, I couldn't know. So that time, I definitely, because it's like tempo of the revolution is also really high that time. So I was really positive. Like definitely, I will be outside of
Mhm.
Myanmar for like 1 year, 1.5 year, not more than
Mhm.
that. And living in US so I went to US and living in US. So US is a like a big country. It's like a so it's I feel really, the first thing is like the guilt and then the shame at the same time. The guilt is like I experienced like a couple of times in my life is like leaving my mom, and also leaving like I escaped from the arrest while my other friends were arrested, and also leaving my fellow friends, like my colleagues. Colleagues mean like my fellow photographer, like my close friends in Myanmar. This is like this is guilt, and um and also I'm ashamed of myself, like leaving. And I thought I will, like I can freely do like artwork if I'm not in Myanmar. But
Mhm.
actually in the reality, it's like I was working on the quilt. I'm also like I not only photography, I started to use like a sewing, because I know embroidery, and also I know quilting. So I started to
Mhm.
do like cyanotype. Cyanotype is like sand print, using photograph, like a sand print photograph on the paper, on the fabric, and I started to quilt, um, to do tribute to the people who lost their life. And then you may notice that you may remember like one incident, like um four people, like young people, jump out of like building, to escape from the arrest of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that incident, and I'm really angry myself. Like, and that period, we don't know whom to be angry at. So that time, like my anger is on me. Like why I'm doing this quilt and when I'm doing this art piece, like why I'm borrowing other people's sorrow, while living comfortably
Mhm.
in US. And so I
Mhm.
find that quilt, like I cut it piece by piece by piece.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's it takes me a while. I couldn't do any artwork, and so like when
Mm.
people approach me like, oh, do you have any new work or something like that, instead of showing my work, and I was like, um I recommended fellow photographer work or artist work, or if they interested, like I also did like a curation, like an online curation or something like that. And so because I am not comfortable to showing my work, that like it's, by doing so is like, because I'm a photographer, I'm not comfortably showing my work, and I'm not comfortably uh, addressing myself as a photographer. So it's kind of like that period is like losing my identity in a foreign land. So I don't know how to
Mhm.
respond to it. So it's a really depressive moment. Like, but I also cannot share my difficulties to my friends because they live in Myanmar. They have like bigger struggle than me, and people are dying. And then I'm in US, and why I'm telling my, why I don't want to share this to anybody. Like, so it's like more and more bigger. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's certainly all very understandable. You did also create some post-coup artwork that was exploring your own deeper and underlying feelings. This was called "Of So Longs and Ashes." Can you explain the work behind that and what you were trying to impart and tap into?
Yeah, so it like it's for a while I couldn't produce any work in US. So I, like, as I told you, I become like depressed, and so I started to meet with my counselor. She's from Myanmar. She gave me the free counseling like for
Mhm,
transaction.
mhm.
So I couldn't do that any counseling in US because it's very expensive. So thanks to her, I like I tell her like I reflected that I lost my identity as a photographer, and so she said, okay, why don't we do like any like exercise on like visual diary? Maybe you can also write, you can also take picture or something like that. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'll start doing like, I'm not doing like any project. And then she said, fine, fine, don't worry, like you don't need to do any project. Because at that time I, if we think of project, I feel guilty why I'm doing like any project related with a coup. And so it's like, okay, I'm just shooting like collecting something like my daily life. And yeah, so I'm, it's kind of like a exercise of like visual diary of that period. And and mostly I'm kind of long for Myanmar and also long for my community. I think it's a place and the people very interrelated. I'm also miss my like mostly missing Myanmar, me missing my community. And so it's so like I write and also like I do that like visual diary. And then I, and she said, oh, if you feel like you can do anything you like. So I do quilt, but it's not related with the work. And also I like making book making, like a book, handmade book. So I was like, okay, maybe I will do something like a diary with this work, with these photos, so just for myself. And so I started to look at the photos. It's like all are from US, but it's like although I'm shooting this like particular scene, this particular like landscape, that that is like something strike me from the past back in Myanmar. So instead of why don't I mix with the photo I shot in Myanmar, like the last week I was in Yangon. So I'm trying to mix with the past and the like the present of kind of like my memory floating back and forth from Myanmar to US. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and I think that that's also just really interesting that this is coming from work you were doing with a therapist, so you were tapping into these really deep, ephemeral, conceptions and feelings that were going on at the time and trying to figure out how to bring, and I think this also taps into and goes into your as you've described your personality and your work as an artist, and how strongly emotion is really the centerpiece and the perspective and the lens and the forefront of everything you're doing. So this is an example with this of so longs and ashes. This is an example of really of tapping in not just to feeling, not just to emotion, but to this deep rooted trauma that you're working out with a therapist and actually transforming that into an artistic piece that is, I don't know, would you say that that's the most personal kind of artwork or photojournalism you've ever done?
Yeah, it's this is a very personal work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So, and I'm sure that as you're finding your way as an artist and an activist and a Burmese person who's impacted by these terrible things going on, I imagine that was there was something cathartic about that experience as well.
Yeah, itself. Yeah, I like shooting itself, and also like I also have like dummy book, like making handmade book is also making book is also
Mm,
like revisiting the images I made, new and the old. So it's kind of like very catharsis for me.
And I should add that from looking at the description of this work of Salongs and Ashes, can you tell us where this title came from, where you pulled it from?
Okay. Um, like I like poetry. Mostly like I like short, like it's like short poetries is like with the words and playing with the words. I really like. E. Cummings is like one of my favorite photographers. So I like this line coming from because it's like it's all about like leaving Myanmar. Also, like um, I'm it's all about like a departure. Like some departures are really rash, and some departures are like planned departure, but some departures are really unexpected departures.
Mhm.
So it was like okay, it's like all about departure. So it's like I so from E. Cummings Cummings like poetry. I got like the last line of his poem. So I got like of so longs and ashes. This is all about like memory, like how memory linger to us, like from like the past and till now. The way I see Attica landscape reflected my Yangon landscape is also like it's totally different. Like Myanmar Yangon landscape and in upstate New York landscape is different, but it's like
Yeah.
it's really like but it's related to me inside. Maybe it doesn't work for like the viewer,
Mhm.
but it's like it's walks me in that way. So I was like, okay, I will. It remind me of that poem, like when I gather the photos together. The title I didn't get in the first. So like I like to do like a zine, like I like to do like handmade books. So I'm sequencing like revisiting the photos and then my diary of the words like pieces. I'm
Mhm.
not good at writing, so I just have like a scattering words in my diary. So I just pull it up, okay, and then later, okay, I'll give this title. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's that certainly brings out a lot. So we've jumped forward really from the start of your photojournalism career, and then all the way until talking about the recent coup and your work after it. So let's fill in the middle a little bit with some of the projects that you did, both artistic and photojournalism. One of the ones that I want to come to that I think would be quite interesting to listeners on this platform, who many of whom have an interest in different aspects of Buddhism and meditation as it relates to Myanmar, is your work at this nunnery. So can you describe what brought you to this nunnery and what you found and what you ended up doing with it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like I I I thought living in the nunnery, like living in the religious boarding school, because it's like most of the media and also most of the um, like most of the information I got, like secondhand information I got is like, oh, it's like very oppressed place, and like Buddhism is like very strict training to the young people. So it was like I went there with the like photographer and artist. We want drama, right? And so I thought like, oh, maybe I will find like some kind of like a the lost childhood of the children who are refugees in the nunnery from the war torn zone, like a war region and northern Shan State, Lasho, this kind of area. So I went there with that expectation, like so I'm Burmese, like majority Burmese, like although I'm mixed with Chin a little bit, but like I was raised in Burmese community, so it's I went there. Um, but I want to like as I told you, I'm very slow journalism, so I couldn't like I because they are from like ethnic minorities, so I want to build a trust with them first. So I asked the head of the school, like the head of the nunnery. I like to give the photo workshop to the young nuns or who would like to explore photography. And then I end up like staying there like 2 weeks. So like the more I spend the time, and I realized that, oh my god, this nunnery school is like very alternative school. You're gonna even see in the government school is like they learn dancing, they learn about like exercises, and it's like a really alternative school. And also like it's it's interesting. Most of the ethnic groups are from like northern Shan State, for example, like the An, Shan, Gachin, War. So some area, like even in those area, like and also like Burmese Nun too, like those ethnic area, like some are like conflicted within conflicted to each other, to each own group. But in the nunnery, they don't like, they were really like, I can see like a sisterhood, I can see like friendship, like the aunt nun, the aunt like big like nun who is a little bit older is taking care of the young like shan nun. So it's like it's kind of like the example of the positive connectivity, like between two groups or from. It's always like sometimes we come with a pre-assumption idea, like the journalist or photographer or artist or whoever we, because we was fed up by the idea from the uh, like secondhand information, so we come up with that
Hmm.
idea. But like the more you spend in that area, and the more you know like what is the story, like what is the complexity of the story, and what is the layer behind. So I found like a beautiful bond between them. And so I pitched to the donor, like I pitched to the uh, story is like a oppressed, like lost childhood of the ethnic Nan. But it's like I told my
Hmm.
donor, it's like, okay, this is not what I find, and maybe if you don't like it,
Mm.
you cannot fund me. But it's like this is what I'm story, like they are really flexible. So I changed the story angle. Yeah.
Mm, that's really great. I really like the honesty that you're bringing to that, where you're you're coming with one set of preconceived conditions, and I think it really takes a talent and an ability to recognize that there is a divergence between the preconceived and unexamined assumptions you're bringing in and what the story is actually telling you, and to be able to identify the errors in what you're bringing to a story and look at the story itself instead. I just think that's that's really profound in being able to course correct in that way. You also describe in taking on this project that you went with these fears of being a parachute journalist, and I thought that was a very interesting expression because often, or to unpack that expression for listeners who don't know, a parachute journalist is it's called that to literally mean a journalist who parachutes from an airplane into a remote area that they have no background in, and then files the story and then goes back on the plane and leaves. So it's kind of this in and out journalist who doesn't really have a proper understanding of the context. It's quite a negative term. Often that term is used, at least in Myanmar, as meaning like white Western journalists who come into a place in Myanmar to try to parachute into those places, do a story, and then leave and go back to their comfortable places in the US. So I thought it was interesting that you, as a Bamar, or Bamar with some Chin mixed in, but you, as basically a Burmese, reporting on another Burmese story, that this was a term that you were using for yourself and some kind of fear of something you didn't want to be. So, in what way, being a native Burmese reporting on a Burmese matter, in what way did you feel so disconnected and removed from that story taking place that you actually had concerns that you could fit into this mold of a parachute journalist?
For me, some of like most of the story are like new to us. Like we don't like, sometimes we have like a research time, but sometimes we don't have. So I really, I was worried like if I represented the story in a wrong way. And so it's like, although I'm inside story, although I'm insider, but I couldn't know the lived experience of the people I'm. taking picture or the telling the story. So sometimes it's really impacted in the media landscape. So I was like really really careful, and I was really conscious of like how little we know about the issue. So I have to remind, okay, I have to spend the time, because this is like that can tell like a different story. So for example, if I spend only one day in the nunnery school, I will only see like, or maybe like at the moment I will only see the tired young nun after she came back from the school. So maybe because we may have like a tiresome moment, like, right? And so I will represent that moment, like, and I will interpret in a negative story or something like that. And so it's like a short moment can be representing very dangerously. So I think like a news, like hot news or some kind of like news, the nature of news, the rush nature of the news, um, can face this kind of problem, like can be problematic, because like there is, it's like it's rarely we could follow up by in the newsroom, like follow up story, or we couldn't even spend time like more than 2 days like in the newsroom. So maybe because of the resources and the limitation of the finance, but like if we encourage ourselves like to spend more time, and we can see more story, like sometimes like story just come unexpectedly. Yeah, if we don't spend, like we will miss those moments. Sometimes like also like the people we are collaborating or shooting, whatever term you are using, I'm using collaborating. The people
Mhm.
collaborating in the story also knows like how to answer the media question, because like people are very familiar with the media, right? And so like for example, like a phases of change, like people answer like similar and responses, like because this is how they know, that this is how they have to tell the media. So it's kind of like we have to loosen up a little bit, and we have to find their natural moment and natural story come unexpectedly. So yeah, sometimes they know our expectation. So so it's kind of like both
Mhm.
way. We come with the expectation, and also the people we are shooting also know our expectation. So sometimes like, yeah, it's kind of like um it's like it's kind of like repeating again.
And this finished work ended up being a series of photographs that told the story that you, as you learned, it wasn't the story you expected to tell. It told a different story. What did these photographs that were a part of this finished work, what did they depict? What did they show?
You mean like from my nunnery project?
Yeah, yeah.
No. Mostly I collaborated with them on the beauty, the sisterhood side, because it's like it's kind of like they also have like they also don't know where want to go back home. Their parents are in war torn zone, like they shelter here because it's like away from war, because that time it was in 2019. That time the war only happened in the ethnic area, like the border area, northern Chin State, Kachin, but not like today. Like war is like the conflict is everywhere today, but it's that time is like um, this is the nunnery is the only safe place for them to shelter from war. So I decided to highlight the the beautiful bond between the men from different diverse ethnic groups. Yeah.
Right. Moving on to another project, and I do find it interesting how much all of your projects are fitting into your artistic mold, both of bringing your subjective beliefs and personhood into it, your feelings and backgrounds, and then also really wanting to. I just see the thread of diversity in everything you do, and wanting to go beyond the big headlines and the kind of block style stories that we were talking about that frustrate both of us so much when it comes to Myanmar, and wanting to go into those nuanced human details that are often making up the fabric, but not so visible. And another project that fits into that is the extensive time you spent in Bangladesh. And being in Bangladesh, that's also putting you as a Buddhist in a community of Muslims, which is the Buddhist Muslim tensions in this part of the world is something we're hearing a lot about. And yet you embedded there, you lived there, that became your life in your home for some period, and you interacted with a whole host of people. So tell us about what happened in Bangladesh.
In Bangladesh, Bangladesh and Myanmar, before I go there, I thought it will be so different, because like we are from Buddhist country and the Islamic and going to Islamic country. But when I lived there for a long time, maybe we also have like a lot of common experiences, like the extreme like religions, frenetic in both country, and also like the experience of woman is also similar, the patriarchal society is also similar, so we I can relate to some of them, but still like I I feel like I'm always living there as like a guest. I never feel like I am a part of the community, so I feel really alienated.
Mhm.
Bangladeshi friends, like I have like I came to I got invited for the dinner, and also I got invited several occasions, but like always feel like outsiders. Um, I was like unconsciously shooting something about like like my alienation and isolation of my my experience in Bangladesh. Um, so that time, I unexpectedly met the Somalian community in Bangladesh. So it's like I didn't expect, I didn't it's not like a it's a kind of an unexpected meet at the immigration office, because I have to renew my visa. Like it's a bureaucratic country, I have to go to the immigration office like 16 times. So I spent a
Mhm.
lot of like hour there, and then I become friends with them, and they got invited me, and then I spent like nearly 3 months with them, like hanging out with them, because I become a part of them. And so I share, they also share, although they are from like Somali community is also from Bangladesh community, but like the black skin and the brown skin also, like there comes like also the racial discrimination happened to a lot of my Somali friends. Um, and also they feel like really alienated, and they also feel like really isolated. And I also visited their university, so I can feel like the Bangladeshi community, the Bangladeshi students don't speak to them. So it's kind of like I we have like a share experience between me and my Somali friends. But like what strikes me is like they are away from home, but they are trying to build home. So it's like, and also I finding them like also meeting them, and meeting them is also making home for me in like in Bangladesh, in a foreign land. So it's like okay, all intertwined, like this kind of experience. I created the work Jigsaw, collaborating with them, with a Somalian community. So it's kind of like a beautiful story, like a beautiful experience for me. They said the whole process is very beautiful.
While you were there, in addition to coming in contact with the Somalis, with the Bangladeshi, you also came in contact with Rohingya. Can you tell us about your experiences there?
So that time, like my art school um, want me not to go to the causes go to causes bazaar, because it's like
Mhm.
I'm not going with the journalist visa, so I can
Mhm.
be at risk. So I couldn't go, but it's like a lot of the time, and I was like I was asked by Rohingya issue by my Bangladeshi friends, and then um, I have no clear answer at that time. Like I could tell like what is wrong, like what is it is, but it's like I couldn't tell them like the real answer that time, because the Rohingya issue is like very complex, and also I didn't specialize, so I couldn't tell the real answer to them. So it's like um, and also like a lot of people like question me, why didn't you do the Rohingya, why didn't you focus on the Rohingya issue in Bangladesh? It was like, this is like what I want to tell about, like like expectation of the like Burmese, like because I'm from Burmese community, so I have to tell this and this and this story. Yes, I'm interested. Like I would like to tell like a Rohingya story, but it's like there are also limitation for me to go to get to there and to get access, and everything is like limited, and so I couldn't really tell. Like I couldn't risk my life going there. So I got like a little bit pressure because it's like everybody like question me, while you're in Bangladesh, why don't you do the Bangladeshi, like why don't you do the Rohingya story? It's like, yeah.
Right. So really a dynamic and diverse experience that you went through while you were in Bangladesh. And moving now back to Myanmar, another project you worked on, which meant a lot to you, was investigating the trafficked women in Shan State. And I should mention, I think this is a story of quite a bit of relevance today. We won't get into this. Actually, this will be the subject of future podcasts with those people who are carrying these investigative pieces. But there are these terrible criminal principalities that are forming all over Shan State right now, often Chinese run, and they're some of the aftermath of the coup. This is happening right now, and yet in Shan State, there's been a long history of all kinds of illicit activity. And one of the things that you spent some time investigating and exploring was trafficked women. So tell us about that.
Mhm. Also, that story is also come like the story. I mean, like the interest in the human trafficking to from Myanmar to China. I got to know also from my experience as a teacher's trainer. So I was doing teacher's training to one private school in Lasho, and then I had a chance to meet with um, like some teachers from different villages, and from um, from interacting with them, like I know like some girls are not coming back, and their garrison they went to China, they lost contact. It's like I keep hearing it, and so that time I was like, oh, it's something's going on, because it's like that time like media role in Myanmar is not that open, so we didn't hear that kind of story really easily. And if you live in Yangon, and so like that moment struck me like when I become a photographer. So this is also what I want to tackle it, because this is one story I like. This is one thing I'm really interested in before even become a photographer. So also again, like me as a Burmese and going to the northern Shan State. Northern Shan State is also more complex because it's not Shan. They also have a Kachin, like even like Da'an, not like Shan, Da'an, Pa'o, like so it's like it's like diverse community. So it's like I really like I couldn't go like just like a Burmese photographer. So I give the training, like photo training, to um, at the local resource center, LRC, I think, local resource center, to the different ethnic group, like the young, like the youth from the ethnic groups. So, and also like I know, although I know the trafficking story from my teaching, when I was a teacher, like back then, but I didn't know the full scope, like what is happening. Like I didn't know the full scope. So by working on, by giving the training to the photography training to the youth from the ethnic group, I got to know their lands, like the complexity of the area really more. And then it's kind of like they, instead of, although I gave the training to them, they taught me in that workshop, like for that, like my future project of the trafficking. And then after that, I collaborated with one of the workshop trainee from he's war and Pa'o mixed, so he has two languages. So we investigated that pieces together, because it's like most of the traffickers are war. So they came to the villages, but like my collaborator knows about like war language, but we pretend he doesn't know it, and so he knows some some information. So we know that when the Chinese men are coming to find the bribe, and even not only traffic the woman from Shan State to China, even the Chinese men come and look at the woman in China, the villages in Shan State. So it's like we got this kind of like an inside news. So we got to know who is a trafficker, and also thanks to my another trainee whose father is religious leader in that Lahu village. No, not Bo'o. Sorry, like my trainee is like Bo'o and War mixed. So we got the trust from we could build the trust with the Lahu community, and then I got access to the trafficker. It's not just like if I'm a parachute photographer. If I didn't invest my time, I wouldn't have a chance to meet with the trafficker, and also the man the Chinese men who come and find the bribe in China, like in Shan State. So it's like I spend like it's kind of like self-funded project, because it's like I couldn't pitch anyone when I can finish the project, because it's like meeting the trafficker and then the Chinese man is also like it's very random. It's like I cannot tell like okay, like within 2 months I can tell the story, or within 2 months I can shoot the trafficker. Not like that. I made like a 7 trip, like out of 7 trip I
Hmm.
had a chance to meet with the trafficker 2 times.
Hmm.
So this kind of nature of walk, it's like not fit with like um, the news culture. So
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, it's that story is like I couldn't do it without the help of my the trainee from the workshop, the
Hmm.
previous workshop. They are really like
Hmm.
yeah.
What a diverse array of stories you've been able to cover in that position, and cover it from a photojournalist aspect, from a storytelling aspect. And not only have you told all these stories, but you've also been a part of joining as well as establishing certain collectives that one that was supporting and helping women storytellers and photojournalists. We can't say the name for safety reasons, which I'm very sorry about, because the name is very interesting to me and something that I think could be unpacked in terms of looking at Burmese history and name choices and other revolutionary periods. But we'll just have to leave it there. So, name aside, can you tell us about why this collective was formed and what it was doing prior to the coup?
Yeah, when I was a photojournalist from Myanmar Times, I and only one woman photographer are there, and mostly like most of my colleagues and my hangout like friends are male photographers. So it's like it's we can share the experience, but like sometimes like when I share the experience of like my harassment, or when I share the experience of my safety, because it's like um, as of a woman photographer, like my experience is like if I go to the area, like let's say northern Shan State, or like Sittwe or whatever, like whenever I go, like sometimes like I face like problem with the man, because it's like I'm a one woman coming to the area traveling alone, like so I always say that I'm married, and I always wear my ring, wearing on my middle finger into my ring finger. So I'm married, and I like a lot of the times like my husband is waiting for me at the hotel. So this kind of experience, like my male colleagues, like my man colleagues couldn't understand. It's like when I share it, like they kind of like a downplay my security concern and things like that. And I was like, okay, um I need a safe space to discuss those about things, but I don't know like woman photographer. Like it's out there, it's like very rare to find. So I started like a woman photographer club. It's not like helping or supporting the woman photography. It's like I can be say that it's just building for myself because I don't know who are the women photographer out there. So it's like informal women photographer club, and then we gather weekly, and then it had a chance that we had a chance to work on a photography project with the help of the statement art from New York City. So the participants, like all the participants, are from the photograph. All the participants are women photographer, and then we become close within that workshop, and also the woman photographer club like gathering. So we were like after the workshop, we were like, okay, if we are together, if we want to tell the story, like why don't we like form a collective? And then we started like a pilot project, like working on like short stories. And then we decided, oh, some people quit, and some people some people keep going. So we was like, okay, let's decide it. And then like we are five founding member. We found the women collective together. So it's kind of like building building a safe space and platform for women photographer. So it's like starting for ourselves first, and then we become like we grow we grow more as a photographer, and we started to share, contribute a photography skill to the woman photographer by doing mentorship and photo training in different parts of the country, things like that. But we start to grow ourselves first, and then we are directing to the community, building community. And also that's what is lacking in Myanmar, because like the majority like in time, like if we talk about photography in Myanmar, people only recognize like a photojournalism because like yes, of course, because photography flourished with I must say saffron revolution. So it started with the photo, like striking photo of the photojournalist in that period, and so people mind is like Myanmar photography is always stuck with photojournalism. So it's kind of like we also need a platform for other storyteller who use the other language, other storytelling rather than reportage. So this is we kind of like filling the gap in Myanmar photography industry. Yeah. So like before the coup, like we have a lot of activity. We were really active, and we even like we even plan out to run a photo festival in 2021 October. We already got the grant, and because photography scene in Myanmar is like very Western or like led festival, like so it's kind of lack out, like it's kind of leave the gap for some photographer who has like language barrier. So if you know English and you have more opportunity to learn the language, like the workshop, or had a chance to meet with a curator. So we don't want that anymore. So it was like we will do like a locally ran photo week, and uh, like showcasing local photographer, and we will discuss in Burmese, and we will talk about photography in Burmese. And if the non-Burmese, like a non like international audience want to come, and they come with a like an interpreter, we are focusing only on the Myanmar photography. That like we plan a lot like that. But December, the coup happened in February, so it's just we couldn't continue
Hmm.
our collective journey. So now we are kind of like hiatus
Hmm.
stage.
Right.
Yeah, everyone in the collective are different places. So like some are displaced, some are in exile. So
Yeah.
we have like our life path become shifted,
Mm.
shifted,
Mm.
an expected shift. So we couldn't give like a full commitment like before. So we kind of, for
Yeah.
this period of, for right now, like we are kind of hiatus stage. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry about
Yeah.
that. There's before we close, there's a couple of very interesting statements that you said elsewhere that I want to bring here and just unpack a bit deeper into the meaning of those. One of those statements is you reference that photography, the experience of doing photography and storytelling for you has made you as a natural introvert, it's made you more confident in doing that work. Can you describe how you characterize yourself as an introvert and to what degree photography has changed the way that you understand yourself and the relation to the world?
Yeah. For me, I'm interested in human story, but is I'm very shy to start talking, and also very shy to approach to the people. Um, so when I started having photography as a hobby in Hong Kong, I started to I'm not really awkward that with a camera. And I started to approach people and started to have like a random conversation. It's like, okay, I feel I enjoying the process of like getting access to the people. And sometimes like that can be also like I need to be really conscious sometimes. Like for me, like having camera also helped me to get access to connect with the people. Sometimes like having camera itself is also a kind of power dynamic between you and the other people you are shooting. So I sometimes have to be conscious, like the power dynamic. Um, so it's for me, I with the camera, I know my purpose of like I know my purpose. Like with the camera, I'm more like direct. Like I more know myself. Like what I'm not confident myself, like to approach people, ask question, and having like a natural conversation with the people. So I enjoy the process, and yeah, and like even before that, I am interested in story, but like I didn't have get access to the people naturally, but the camera helped me. Yeah, and also like I must say that being a teacher's trainer also helped my uh, photography journey, because like being a teacher's trainer, I need to be a good listener. Like you also like
Uh-huh.
a part of our like training is like being a good listener. So it's like that skill. Like I always think like, oh, I started photography really late. I started at when I'm 30, so really late. And why did I do like a teacher's trainer? And I wasted my time. Like sometimes like I'm frustrated, but like later like I reflected, okay, no, like by experience of teachers trainer, it's opened a lot of door. Like my
Mhm.
I listen to more carefully, and I listen to the stories, and I listen to them, and by listening to them they also trust me more. And also I
Uh-huh.
got like some like really good access, like the the access with the trafficker, and also the other story of the Meiktila. So without, I don't
Mhm.
think if I don't become, if I'm not a teacher's trainer, I don't think I will be a photographer.
Yeah, life
Yeah.
journeys happen in kind of interesting and unusual ways. That's great. That's beautiful. I just have one last question that also unpacks something you said previously. There's this expression about how journalism or storytelling is hearing the voiceless. And you said before you really disagree with this statement and have gone on to say how storytelling is essentially selfish, which actually seems to somewhat contradict what you said about the quality of good listening. Although I'm sure these are superficial contradictions, and as you go under the surface and unpack them, you see how they all come together. And so, can you describe why you don't like this phrase that you're trying to hear the voiceless, and why you think that storytelling is fundamentally a selfish endeavor?
Yeah, for me, like I don't like the term like a voiceless. Like actually, like we didn't admit that we couldn't hear. Like we are not able to. hear it. They have their voice, and we fail to hear, or we are not able to hear. I so And also like the word itself, like voiceless, and giving the voice is also itself give the hierarchy to the journalist, hierarchy to the photographer. So it's kind of like power dynamic also plays an important, like a big role in that, like journalistic telling the story. So it's like, for me, it's like storytelling is like not one person job. It's more like orchestrative job, like together me and the people in the story together. So otherwise we will just come up with the, not all the cases, but it's like it will be like, if we come with the assumption that we are telling their voice, we are telling the story, their voiceless is like, it's it's kind of wrong for me. Like, yeah, it's kind of like we are giving them, like we are giving the voice to them. It's kind of wrong concept.
Mm.
Yeah, and so
Right. Sounds colonial
yeah, yeah.
almost. Right. So that's all the questions I have for you. It's really been really wonderful to hear your whole journey, personally, professionally, and how it's intersected with all these elements of recent Burmese history, and what we're living through today, future history that we'll see how your work has woven its thread into these very impactful years and very hard years in Myanmar. So, aside from anything I asked you, was there anything else you wanted to talk about before we go?
um thanks for the channel. And I think a photographer or artist out there, being whether you're in Myanmar or outside, I think sometimes we have, being an artist, sometimes we have like a pressure, society pressure, like, oh, we have to produce a work, or we have to do this like revolutionary projects or something like that. And sometimes we can take a break. And also, like, according to my experience, sometimes like your emotional, like your mental health is also sometimes makes you make it take a break or something like this. For me, it's like
Hmm.
being alive is also very revolutionary. We did, like,
Hmm.
it is itself is like a very revolve movement. They really want us to tend like fall down, but be alive. So it's still like we are. This is like being alive is a revolutionary work. So I want everybody to
Yeah,
be like healthy, and also mentally and physically healthy.
that's beautiful. Yeah, thank you for leaving us with that. That's really great, and thank you for all the time you took today to share your story.
Thank you so much.
For whatever reason, even as the conflict in Myanmar continues to worsen, it somehow continues to be shut out of the Western media news cycle. And even when the foreign media does report on the conflict, it's often presented as a reductionist, simplistic caricature that inhibits a more thorough understanding of the situation. In contrast, our podcast platform endeavors to portray a much more authentic, detailed, and dynamic reality of the country and its people, one that nurtures deeper understanding and nuanced appreciation. Not only do we ensure that a broad cross-section of ideas and perspectives from Burmese guests regularly appear on our platform, but we also try to bring in foreign experts, scholars, and allies who can share from their experience as well. But we can't continue to produce at this consistency and at the level of quality we aim for without your help. If you would like to join in our mission to support those in Myanmar who are being impacted by the military coup, we welcome your contribution in any form, currency, or transfer method. Your donation will go on to support a wide range of humanitarian and media missions, aiding those local communities who need it most. Donations are directed to such causes as the Civil Disobedience Movement, CDM, families of deceased victims, internally displaced person IDP camps, food for impoverished communities, military defection campaigns, undercover journalists, refugee camps, monasteries and nunneries, education initiatives, the purchasing of protective equipment and medical supplies, COVID relief, and more. We also make sure that our donation fund supports a diverse range of religious and ethnic groups across the country. We invite you to visit our website to learn more about past projects, as well as upcoming needs. You can give a general donation or earmark your contribution to a specific activity or project you would like to support, perhaps even something you heard about in this very episode. All of this humanitarian work is carried out by our nonprofit mission, Better Burma. Any donation you give on our Insight Myanmar website is directed towards this fund. Alternatively, you can also visit the Better Burma website, betterburma.org, and donate directly there. In either case, your donation goes to the same cause, and both websites accept credit card. You can also give via PayPal by going to paypal.me/betterburma. Additionally, we can take donations through Patreon, Venmo, GoFundMe, and Cash App. Simply search Better Burma on each platform and you'll find our account. You can also visit either website for specific links to these respective accounts or email us at info@betterburma.org. That's Better Burma, one word, spelled BETTERBURMA.org. If you would like to give it another way, please contact us. We also invite you to check out our range of handicrafts that are sourced from vulnerable artisan communities across Myanmar, available at alokacrafts.com. Any purchase will not only support these artisan communities, but also our nonprofit's wider mission. That's Aloka Crafts, spelled ALOKACRAFTS, one word, alokacrafts.com. Thank you so much for your kind consideration and support.